All right, here we go. Back on the Gill Athletics Connections Track and Field podcast. I'm going to do a very short intro because I want to hop into it. In fact, let's get rolling, man. I feel like this coach is the kind of guy that just gets it going anyway, so we're going to follow that theme. Help me welcome from Maryland, from Bullis School, the head boys and girls coach there, the wise, the wonderful Mr. Joe Lee. Joe, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Mike. How you doing, man?
Dude, I like cool names. I said this before we hit record, but I had to just point this out. This is my man's name, Joe Lee, the man with two first names. That is a pretty cool name, my friend. I love it. I love it.
So as a guy in college he nicknamed me Six. I was like, Six, what are you talking about? I'm like, why would you, what does that mean? Is that I'm 6 feet tall? I was like, no, man, 6 letters in your whole name. I was like, oh.
I love it. That's the kind of creativeness I like. I'll be like, what, 6? What's that? Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Before we get started here, hey, Coach Q, my man, the birder out in Colorado, he actually nominated you for the podcast. He is a former podcast guest himself. Love him to death. He does an amazing job out there in Colorado. He runs every year in the Masters 4x4 at Penn Relays. So,
oh yeah, okay, now I got you.
I ran into him and he was like, "Hey man, do you know the guy at Bullis?" And I was like, "No, but I've heard of the school, but I don't know the coach, unfortunately." He goes, "Man, Joe Lee, he's a cool dude. You got to have him on the podcast." And so that's how we kind of connected. And luckily, we magically ran into each other at Penn, which I think that to me tells me fate, because there's thousands and thousands of people there. So I'm so glad we were able to get connected and get you here on the podcast, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad to be here, and Q's way more cooler than I am because he's still running. I'm not running nothing but my mouth.
Dude, so. I don't know how he does it. God bless him. I'm like, that's good for you, not for me. Well, Joe, here on the podcast, we started this to uplift and honor coaches around the country in their journey, and every journey is unique. We've had coaches who took I don't even know if there is a stereotypical way, but maybe the way we think of it, like, kid runs in college and then they go become a GA, and maybe they're a education major, so they become a high school teacher and coach, or maybe they GA'd a program and then they become a college coach. But as we're learning after 200 and plus interviews here, there is no one way. Everybody has a really unique path to where they are today, and that's what we're going to explore with you and your amazing story here. So, Joe, as we hop back into our Wayback Machine here, where does track start for you?
Actually, track, I think, starts with my mother, who passed away about 6 years ago. But she would take me to the track or the field back when I was 5 or 6 years old. And I always wanted to race her because I know I was fast. I could beat the people in my class. So I was like, oh, I want to step up, And she would wear me out. I mean, my mother was talented. She was fast. She was athletic.
Wow.
She played. She's point guard on a basketball team, and she ran track as well. And this is back, in the day where women's athletics were not as celebrated, right? But my mom was a trendsetter, and she made no apologies for it. So one of the best things she did is she didn't let me win.
Nice.
But she would always be encouraging afterwards. She'd hug me and say, it's okay, you're going to get faster, you're going to get better. It wasn't anything but love on both sides. So I guess I've never thought about that before, believe it or not. So I guess that's kind of how I coach now. It's kind of how part of my philosophy is that give your best, but it's at the same time, and tell the truth, be honest in your effort, I'll say, but then be caring in the approach afterwards. So
I'm curious, as a dad myself, I subscribe to your mom's theory of like, I'm going to get whatever we playing, Uno, racing, basketball. I'm going to give, if you beat me, great, good job. Cause that means you beat me at I'm trying.
Yes.
Mom sounds like a firecracker here, playing college sport or playing sports when women weren't encouraged at all to play women's sports, and to also, take it to you and say, hey, if you're ever going to beat me, it's going to be because I gave my best. Did you, if you can remember back in those times, 5, 6, 7 years old, and she's whooping you, she's beating you. I love I have that vision of her putting that arm around you, like, it's okay, son. Like you just got beat by a better person. I just love that. Do you remember how you felt about that though? Because, it's your mom, you're a little boy trying to become a big boy. You're supposed to quote unquote beat your mom, but she's whooping you. Did it embolden you of like, well, I better try harder? Or did it like discourage you and like, well, maybe I need to go play Connect 4?
No, it motivated me. It it let me know that number one, that there was always something or someone out there who is better than you. And it motivated me to get better myself. But the motivation happened after the fact. See, if she would have like said, discouraging words, oh yeah, you and just been, like teasing me, no, I probably would have went the other way, right? I probably would have just, inwardly just quit and been demoralized. But she was such an encourager, and my mom was the type of person like, you can do anything you believe. You set your mind to. There's nothing you can't do. Like, don't ever let anybody tell you what's not possible. You can do it. And we were at that time, we were living down in North Carolina at the time. I'm from New Jersey, and my father and actually her father as well. So a lot of my parents, my father and my grandparents are from New York, but we moved to North Carolina where her mother was from for a couple of years, and we were really living very modest means. I mean, I'm trying not to use the word poor. That's a mindset, but we didn't have a lot of money. I'll put it that way. Yeah. So, but she didn't let that stop us. That your surroundings do not impact your outcome. And so I tell the kids even now, it's like, don't let the outside impact the inside. So whatever the external circumstances, it cannot take over the internal. So yeah, she did that, Mike, and it's so fun. I'm so glad we're even having a conversation, because I think about my mom often, but not necessarily connected to my athletic, years. But she was also the one who was always at every game, every track meet, like everyone. And this is, before, you had things like social media to check on times and dates. She just was there, every practice. So she was always an encourager and motivator. But make no bones about it, like she was tough, and she was gonna make sure you earned everything you got.
That's right. I love it. We need more parents like that, please. Yeah. So you mentioned mom went to all the games and track meets. So in high school, did you play other sports besides track?
Yeah. So I actually started out my journey, athletic journey. I mean, track was actually the first event that I actually participated in. Thinking back now, it's like, the field day and, all that. But then my first organized sport was baseball. And I knew I had a gift in speed. I know I was fast because I was never thrown out stealing a base. Right. So, and I was never taught how to base. I just picked it up in the neighborhood, and I went into a place where they were predominantly playing all their lives. So I was like, okay, I'm a good athlete. How do I figure this out? I didn't have coaching to prepare me. I went in as a 13-year-old playing junior league, which is the level up of Little League. And I played I went to school at the time in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood in Newark, New Jersey. It's called Newark North. So it's a lot of, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Hispanic descent. So, and they can play some ball. Let me tell you, they can play some baseball. So I was at a deficit because I was used to being the best athlete and went into being like trying to make the team. So when I made the team, they put me in center field because I can track down a ball because I was faster than everyone, but I didn't have the skill sets per se. And then by the end of that season, I wound up, we won our first playoff game, and we won by 3 runs, and I think I helped score 4. So I was like, all right, cool. I felt like I finally figured it out. Right. But the next year was the next level, and I got cut. So I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? My older brother, he's 18 months older than me. He was on the track team at our high school. So he was a sophomore and I was a freshman. So when I got cut from the JV baseball team, I said, hey, you think I can try track? And he asked his coach, and the coach was like, no, we're pretty much done. And now, mind you, that previous year, my mom signed me up again, back to mom again. She signs me up for the United States Youth Games. And I never ran track before. This is way back in the day. It was just people coming from all over the country and just like having like these select teams. And I wound up medaling in the 100. So yeah, right, with no track experience or training or whatever. And so I was hoping that would get me some street cred with my brother's coach. He didn't do nothing, which I appreciate because again, I was late. I was coming to track because I got cut from baseball, right?
Right.
So I was like, well, does he know I'm kind of fast? And he was like,
did he check my Twitter page? And, oh,
yeah,
wait,
right,
we don't have
exactly.
Twitter.
Yeah, there was no Twitter, right? There was no YouTube to look at, come on. So anyway, the very next year, he did let me on the team and I was state champ. And I think I broke like 3 school records or something like that. And the rest was history. But that's where my love of track started. And when I dive into something, I dive all the way in.
Right.
Like I dive all the way.
What I find interesting there, it's now that we're at the age and stage that we are, we have perspective, right? We can look back and look at all these different decisions we made. It's hard for us in the moment to see these decisions as even important decisions. So, freshman year, you get cut from the baseball team. That's devastating enough for a kid right there alone, right? Especially for a sport that you loved. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm pretty fast. I, won last year, blah, blah, blah. I'll go to the track team. And the track coach says no. Now, right there is the fork in the road. You could have been like, well, you know what? Well, screw track, screw baseball. I'll just do football, or God forbid, other bad things, right? You made a decision of like, okay, well, crap. Well, then I'll see you next year. Like that's me. It's that to me feels like that decision of your mom beating you. And it's like, well, crap, I'm not fast. I guess I'm not very fast. So I either better go do something else, or well, I better try again. And that feels like the sophomore year of like, well, I better try again. And you won a state title in Jersey, by the way, one of my favorite high school track states in the whole stinking country.
Jersey's
tough.
Everything. It is. And so that's kind of my story. Resilience, again, started with my mom. And we don't, there's no quit in the Lee house. And my dad, but I'll say this, there was no chance of me getting into trouble because mom was who she was, and my dad's he was a law enforcement officer. So
wow.
Good luck getting locked up. And he actually worked in one of the prisons in Jersey too. So he was a captain. He was captain of one of the largest prisons in Jersey. So that would have been worse. That would have been way worse for me. Like I got to deal with that and all this. So no, I wouldn't get in trouble like that. But yeah, just resilience, Mike. Like, man, I'm like, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to take no for an answer. Like we're going to figure it out. And they instilled that in me. And also my brother's really, he's a tough guy too. And in a good way. And one of my favorite memories is us being on the track team. So check this out. So I get on the track team sophomore year and he decides to quit. He's like, I'm not doing it.
Your brother?
Yeah, well, not quit, but he wrestling was his sport, right? So, and he was very good at that. He was, state champ as well, and went on to nationals, placed 5th in the nation in a national prep tournament, and I actually wrestled as well. I wanted to be like my older brother, so I started wrestling in the 7th grade. I did everything: wrestling, football. Football was really my first love. Problem is that St. Benedict's, that's where I went to school. Shout out St. Benedict's Prep in Newark, New Jersey, best school in the world, and the unfortunate part was we didn't have football, so I had to figure out what else I was going to do.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So we now have a football team. How about that? As many great athletes have been at our school, we're a predominantly soccer school, so I wound up again doing that whole, all right, I'm an athlete, I can figure it out. I wanted to do something in the fall, so there's no football, so I wound up playing soccer. I was a goalkeeper because we needed a goalkeeper on our freshman team, and that moved into, doing JV. And then by the time the track really started to take place, I gave that my total focus. But yeah, just those crazy little changes. Like if I'd have made the baseball team, we're not having this conversation.
Nope. That's right.
So glad
you'd be on the baseball connections podcast or something. Exactly right. Before we move on and kind of because I want to speed up because I want to make sure we talk a little bit more about what you're doing today. Sure. But I am curious, was it the same track coach sophomore year as freshman, the one that said no?
Yes, he was.
You show up sophomore year. I have to assume you showed up fairly fast right off the bat, and then obviously you end that year as a state champ. And if you remember coach's name, we almost called this the Gil shout out track and field podcast, but obviously he or she did something really well with it. But were they kind of like, oh crap, maybe I should have said yes to this kid last year?
No. So his name is Keith Corpus. So shout out Coach Corpus. Coach Corpus is what we called him. And he never said that, but he was really a man of principle, right? So if the rule is you have to sign up by this date. That is the rule. Now, I'm like, well, can you bend the rule a little bit? Can we have some leniency? But I appreciated that because he made me earn it the way that everybody else had to. And he became one of the most influential coaching / mentors of my high school experience. I mean, I can remember days where we're laughing, and like at nationals, I was the only one to qualify for nationals. So we went, and this is back when I was in Syracuse. This is how, back in my day. So, yeah. So at the Carrier Dome, not Carrier Dome, at the, they have their track, I can't remember the name of it, but and it's me and him, and I mean, he was an English teacher, big glasses, young guy. He still ran, but not your stereotypical or prototype coach. And he's very methodical, this, that, and the other. And we're in Syracuse, New York, and he, right in the hotel room, he starts a snowball fight. I'm like, whoa! I'm like, first of all, where'd you get snowballs from in Syracuse? I'm like, I didn't expect that from him. I'm like, dude, like, you're supposed to be the straight lace guy. You just hit me with a snowball. Like, it was the best thing ever. And we just bonded, and I had the best relationship with him through high school. So I'm glad he did it that way, because it made me respect the fact that, no, you're not just going to come in here without earning it. So now I guess that's the mentality that I take into coaching. Like, we're going to earn everything we got. But when we do earn it, we deserve it. Like, I don't make any apologies for that, because when our kids do what they have set out to do, celebrate them and give them their just due, if that makes sense.
You mentioned that he is one of the biggest influences over you as a coach. Where does that come from? What kind of things? I mean, obviously, it sounds like he was a rule guy, but that also understood that there need to be some levity to life, right? The snowball fight. What were some of the actions, if you think back now over the 3 years that you had with him, what were some of the things that you're like, oh man, if he didn't do this, I wouldn't be here today. If the way he talked to me, the way he focused on relays, what was it about him that, I mean, it's a heady statement to say one of the largest influences over you. Where does that come from?
Yeah, he was at that time, and there are many others as well. But I think I just think back on some of the things that we did, and he helped keep me balanced, because my talent in high school, I started to shoot up at a very quick trajectory, because I didn't run summer track, age group track, and that kind of stuff. Started my sophomore year, besides that one meet I told you about, and then I'm state champ, and I'm going to the Meet of Champions, which is, they still have that in Jersey. I didn't win it, obviously, but I was in the conversation, right? Very next year, which was my junior year, I think I'm US number 8 or something like that. And that was my first year running indoor, because I didn't know what the indoor track was. So I went from running my first year outdoor to boom, next year indoor, and now I'm top 8 in the country. Actually, I was 9th, because I just missed the finals at nationals by 1 spot. And he just kept me balanced. Like, he never let me let my head get too big, but he also never let me get too low, because I'm very hard on myself, even to this day, when we don't succeed. Yeah, I'm harder on me. I'm not hard on my athletes, and they may say different. Actually, they wouldn't say different after a race. I'm never like, you should have done this more, you should have done that more. I'm just like, how did I screw that up? When we almost won pin relays, and we will win pin relays one day. And I love it that we haven't yet, because it drives me. I mean, I will jump in a sea of Jamaicans and talk trash about the USA. And I love it. 1 year they called me Obama, because I was off to USA when the USA versus Jamaica. I'm like, I loved it. And I will never relent. So this year, when I thought we had them, and we did, and we battled back. We were in first, and we went from first to fourth, and fourth to second. And then our anchor leg had the baton right on the girl from Heidel, and its fans are going crazy. And I'm like, for a second, I was like, we got him. Like, we finally got him. And then we didn't. We lost by 0.8 of a second, 0.8. We set the American record at pin relays, and blah blah blah. We lost. First thing I saw was like, what did I do wrong? Not what did they do wrong? Not what did I do wrong? So, and then what I do from there is, okay, I've got 364 days to figure it out, and we will figure it out.
Is that how coach was when you didn't make the finals? Was it like, all right, hey, so what do we got to do for training differently? Or do I need to do more block starts with you? Is that where you picked that up?
I think so, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because what he did was, again, he was very, Coach Corpus was very methodical, was very, very calculated. You know, he was not as emotional. That's why the snowball fight shocked the crap out of me. But he was very, intellectual. Okay. But also he was flexible too. So he just didn't like, it's got to be this way and only this way. He'd be flexible, say, well, let's fix this, let's do that. And last but not least, he was personable. Mm-hmm. Like I could talk to him. And he didn't, I love the fact he always didn't agree with me. And again, I would, so let me tell you this part. So when I dove into track, Mike, I dove all the way in. I'm that way with anything. You know, you talk about with birding and Coach Q, like if I got into the birding thing, I would be all the way in. I would be all in. That's how I am. That's why I can't do, there's two things I can never do. I can't do fantasy football and I can't play golf. Because y'all won't see me again. Yeah, because I'm like I will all be all the way in, right?
I echo that. And I agree. I have to be careful with because I'm so curious. But when I go in. So I have to be careful of like, man, there's only so many things. You know, I have to be all in on my family. I have to be all in with my work, and I have only a couple of hobbies. Because you're right, and I laugh at golfers because I mean, oh my God, they're addicted. They're always. I live right by a golf course. It's like, oh my God, you guys are always out there. But if I actually liked golf, I'd be the same. I'd be out there all the time, reading all the magazines, doing all the practice, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I agree.
Well, my problem is that there's a golf course right across the street from Bullis. Mm-hmm. Bullis is a beautiful campus. It sits on like 102 acres of land, right? Wow. And there's a golf course right across the street. It's in Potomac, Maryland, which is some of the most beautiful parts of the state that you can see, right? So they would know where I am. I'm like, yeah, no,
there he is right there.
Look at, just call me. Hey, I'm waving. Okay, now I gotta go because I'm on the green. So that's what I would do because I know me. I you know, they say you have to, you ever master it. You have to, like, it's you against the course kind of thing. And so I would be trying to figure it out. But anyway, so I shared that to say that's how I was in high school. And when I dove in the track, bro, like I dove in. So this is gonna seem crazy, but this is literally what I did. So that I could understand the sport. Whenever the sport was on, I would record it on VHS. I'm talking about whenever. And I would pause out the commercial so I wouldn't have to waste time. So when the Olympics was on or the World Championships were on, the reason why I can tell you or anybody else, I was with a coaching, one of my biggest coaching mentors, if not my biggest, is Vince Anderson. He's my OG, like he's my guy, like no bones about it. And he's been that way for years, just been giving up his time and his wisdom. Yep. And we were at U20s and USA's a couple weeks ago, and you know, we're just talking through things, and he's like, "How'd you know that?" He's like, "That's absolutely right." I give him time, so like, yeah, you know, when this person broke the world record, this is what happened. When this person broke the world record, that happened. I'm like, that's because it goes back to when I was in high school. I would record on my VHS and I would play it back over and over and over again, like I was watching a movie.
Right. Wow.
So where my friends were watching, you know, this movie and that movie, did you see this come out on VHS? That came out on Blockbuster or whatever. Yeah. I wouldn't, because I'd be watching the 91 World Championships or the 92 Olympic Games or the 93 World Championships. And I would watch everything to include the pole vault, the steeple. I would watch it and I'd just be so captivated by it, and I would study movement patterns.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Were you watching it for the enjoyment of the sport, of the event, whether it's the 100, the pole vault, or were you, especially as a sprinter, breaking down what they were doing out of the blocks, what they looked like in the max velocity? Like, were you actually, you know, it's hard. I have all forgiveness of a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid who does not, because they're 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. But were you watching and seeing posture and drives and things like that?
Yeah, I was. And again, because of that figure it outness that I had all my life, because I didn't really have the coaching experts, you know, coming up, you know, like I said, with baseball, I had to figure it out, and I had to figure it out with some very talented people around me. And, you know, by God's grace, I did, but I was doing the same thing. So I'm watching, okay, what is he doing? What is she doing? Why is she doing it that way? And then the cool thing is when they would do the slow-mos, right? Because we didn't have like YouTube where we could slow things down, right? We had to actually, you know, do that. So I'd watch it. So because I was fascinated by something so simple but yet something that could be so defined.
Hmm.
Right. Simple, like everybody can run theoretically like that. That's why I laugh when people think it's easy. Oh, I could do, okay. All right. So I would watch it and I'd watch for movement patterns. And then I'd literally watching races. It's going to sound crazy, but I'd watch them hundreds of times where I can see it in my brain. Then now I have it in here. I have it downloaded in my long-term memory. So we were on we were at Arcadia one year and we decided to set up a visit to USC. And I remember seeing Quincy, Coach Watts.
Q, yeah.
And we're talking, and he's talking to my guys, right? He's talking to them, and it was all obviously, legally the right way. There was no NCAA violation. I want to say that. And he said, and my best race, he's like, when I ran my best race at the Olympic finals, and he starts talking what happened. I pulled him to the side. I said, "Hey, coach," I said, actually, I disagree that the best race was the Olympic final when you ran 43.71. I said, I believe your best race was the Olympic semifinal when you ran 43.50 and you slowed down at the, when you shut it down at 30 meters. His face froze. He's
right.
Like, how did you know that? You're right. That is my best race, but I never tell anybody about it because I'm like, it's that kid who was watching him over and over again. I remember watching what he did. I remember where he was at 100. I remember where he was at 150. I remember where he was at 300. I remember he's shutting it down at 370. I remember the whole thing. Like I'm watching it right now as we're talking. And for him to to do that, first of all, it was cool for me. I was like, hey, but that's just how I got, I guess, the way that I am. And it relates to coaching today, hopefully. And I still do the things, but now we got like phones and stuff. I don't have to.
Yeah. Technology has made life easier. That's for sure.
A lot easier.
So where does this take you as you look into your senior year? I have to imagine, because of how you described your parents and your relationship with Coach, who's a teacher as well, that you started looking at colleges and with your talent. Where did you look at and where did you know going? But even more importantly, what was the plan then as an 17, 18-year-old kid? I'm going to go major in X, Y, and Z. I'm going to become a scientist, a firefighter, or whatever.
Yeah. I didn't really, I knew I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to be a professional athlete. I knew that was my path.
Wow.
It wound up not being that. Well, I ran post-collegiately 1 year, but I wasn't really making any real money. So it's like, it wasn't, yeah. But anyway, so I set my mind that I wanted to make the Olympic team and be a professional athlete. So that's what was going to happen, and I was planning on figuring it out. But a funny thing happened to me called pneumonia. So my junior year, I was, US 8 or whatever. My senior year, I had walking pneumonia. Like,
wow.
So I didn't know it. I just remember being sick and my respiratory system was affected. I remember being tired in training and races. And I was just like, oh, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. I guess it's a strength of mine, but it also could be a weakness because I won't stop until I have to. And doctors couldn't figure it out that my mom was taking me to. So finally, she took me to my pediatrician as a child. He said, you have what? And again, because I'm 17, I'm like, I'm not going in with these little kids. Like, dude, shut up, you're going. And I was like, yes, Mom. My mom was 5'2", but she cast a shadow of like 8 foot.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So when he said, you have to walk in the morning, I was like, oh, and I was so thankful that I got an answer, because I'm going to meets where people who I would destroy are now destroying me. And I'm like, you don't even know.
Yeah.
But I can't say that because it sounds like a sore loser, or like, hey, you're not working hard. No, I'm working twice as hard. Trust me, because I'm invested in this thing. So to answer your question, I wanted to go to UNC Chapel Hill. It's funny because Milton Campbell, who is on, he's a national champ from down there. He went to Chapel Hill, and his brother, my brother, are friends. Actually, his brother and I are friends, and he just texted me last night. And so I was supposed to be on that team. It was like Milton Campbell, Tony McCall. They won a national title in the 4x1, and they did a lot of other stuff. So I wanted to be on that team. I was recruited I got a letter from every school in the country but two. And I can't even remember who the two were. I think one of them was Baylor, which is ironic because I was a quarter miler. But I can't remember who the other one was. But when my pneumonia set in, everybody backed off. So I remember having a conversation with the head coach at the time, who's now passed away, Coach Craddock.
Hmm.
And we were at Penn Relays, and he's like, okay, because I started to come out of it because I was, I was on medication, stuff, but I still wasn't hitting. I think I was running like 48 at the time, which back then was, in the 90s was, dope, but now it's like 48.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I was running faster my junior year. But my point is, he said to me, he said, well, yeah, we definitely want you here, and we want you to come, but will you still come if we pay for your books? I'm like, and what else?
Yeah, books and
right, books and right. So I said books. I said wait. I said no. It's like I saw my value as more than that. Mm-hmm. It's what I try to tell the kids even now in the process. Like, know your value.
Mm-hmm.
Know your value in who you are, but also know your value in what you do. And if you feel that your value is not what is being offered, whether it be in a relationship or whether it be in a scholarship, then don't take it. It's okay to bet on yourself. So I bet on myself, and I said, no, I'm not going to take out student loans, just go to my school of my dreams, which my brother actually happened to go there as well. I also wanted to go to Tennessee. There were a lot of schools, like Tennessee and Texas were my top ones in my junior year, but then everybody backed off because I was sick and I wasn't running fast. And long story short, I chose to go to Howard University.
Yeah.
Because he offered me a full scholarship, the same me at Penn Relays. He's like, I have a full scholarship for you right now. It's like, what? I was like, who? First of all, my name's Joe Lee. Let's start there. And but he had heard about me from one of his athletes on the team, Stacy Jordan. Shout her out. She's she said you need to get Joe Lee because we ran summer track together. And so he offered me a full ride. I came down on a trip. I loved the school. I didn't love that they weren't at the top of the game because I always want to compete at the top, the best of the best, right? But I said, okay, well, you bring a good recruiting class in, you bring me along with them, we'll get you there. And we had a bomb recruiting class, Mike. We did. We had, trust me, we had a squad. So that's where I started. It didn't work out there. I stayed there for 2 years, tried to make it work. First year I knew it was going south. And the second year it just got worse. And then I wound up, getting injured and I was like, this is not track and field the way I know it to be. And it was hard decision for me because I love the school and I love the DMV. When I came down to Washington, D.C. So my prayer was, all right, I was like, okay, God, can you just keep me in the area and put me on a bomb track team too? Right. That was my prayer as a kid. Right. So, and then lo and behold, here's George Mason. So George Mason in the 90s, we were that deal.
Oh yeah.
And so I went to George Mason. I just again, betting on myself, believing in me. I jumped on the Metro and took the bus and went to a track meet that they had, bumped into one of their runners. His name is Lewis Sales. We call him nickname Chenga. He was an All-American there. He didn't know me from Adam. I said, excuse me, I need to find your coach. And he's like, yeah, who are you? I was like, hey, I'm Joe. I run for Howard and I want to come here. And he was like, I got you. Come on, let me introduce you to him. And then he talked me up to Coach E. Banks, who was the assistant coach at the time. And he was later on the head coach. And Coach E. Banks has since passed away of COVID, unfortunately. But they let me on the team. I came in as a walk-on. I left my full scholarship on the table to walk on because I believed in me and bet on myself. And that very next year, I made not only made the team, but made the 4x4, made All-American, and we won a national championship.
Wow. Holy cow. Dude, there's a lot to unpack there.
Sorry.
No, it's great. I love that because, one of the things that actually, as I think about kind of two things is, as it relate to what you were doing and going through during this time frame to, what we as a society are going through today. So like one of the questions I wondered, and I realized you ended up transferring to George Mason, but, Howard, first of all, shout out to David Oliver. He's doing an amazing job there.
He's killing it there.
but Howard is a very well respected HBCU, and in today, and by the way, I'm sitting here as a white guy saying this, okay, in the culture of HBCUs, I don't know have ever been hotter as far as like cool to go to, cool to support, and sometimes people don't realize, well, HBCUs have been around for a long time. By the way, there's a lot more of them out there than you think, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not just the ones that are getting pubbed, like Jackson State because of Dion and Howard, things like that. What was the culture like when you were looking at schools and Howard reaches out? Was it like, was it a sense of like I feel like today, if a David Oliver, and granted, I know it's Dio calling you, but if Howard calls you or FAMU calls you, Garfield's there, I hesitate to say them because there's a million amazing, great HBCUs out there. There's a sense of like, oh man, it's cool, for the culture, for my own self and ethnicity, things like that. Was it like that at all back then, or was it just it's a school and they have a track program?
I'll answer the question, but do me a favor. When you next time you see or talk to Garfield, ask him who won the IC4A 4x1.
Oh man,
4x100 at back in the last time we ran. So just ask him that. Now,
as soon as we get done, I'm gonna text him. That's I love G-Man. Come on,
just ask him. Yeah. I anchored it, and he'll remember the rest.
All right. Or he'll conveniently forget.
Oh, right.
It's like, I don't know what he's talking about, man. I wasn't even there.
That's funny. So growing up in Newark, New Jersey, and spending summer times in New York City, you didn't hear a lot about HBCUs. It's kind of like there weren't many up north, or as many.
Which is funny, by the way, because the original is in Pennsylvania, right? Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Yeah, Lincoln and Lincoln. I think it's I thought it was Langston. I could be wrong.
One of them starts
with it's the original, right?
Yeah, I should know. I know Lincoln. I know them well.
Right.
But most of them are south and further because historically we couldn't go to the schools that we'd want to. So great, we'll create our own. Again, figure it out, and I love that about our culture and just people in general. But so I didn't know much about Howard. I knew of it, and because my one of my good friends in high school was going there as well. One of my classmates, AJ. His AJ Calloway, he wound up doing a bunch of stuff with BT and like 106 in Park. He's did all that. So I'm like, dude, why even go to school? You're just going to go and do that Hollywood thing. And he did. He did phenomenal. But I knew he was going there, and it was just me and him. So he's like, yeah, I'm going to Howard. I'm like, well, why? Like, why would you go there as opposed to all these other schools? And he told me, it's like, it's, HBCUs are different. So when I got down there, I understood what the difference was. Now, when I say different, I don't mean better. I don't believe in that better, you better. I even tell our kids all the time, like, look, our program is not better than anybody else's. We're just different. And our differences don't have to be compared to somebody else's, because if you start doing that, as a mentor of mine used to say, if you compare and you compete, you live in defeat, right? You compare, you compete, you live in defeat, because there's always going to be somebody who you find is better than you. So we're all different, and it's okay. And differences are not bad. And I believe personally that if we embrace one another's differences, just like I peeped that out, what you said, I'm a white guy, but you were given, props to HBCUs. Well, that's how the world becomes a better place. Like, it's that you don't have to be intimidated at my differences. It's like, I don't have to be intimidated about yours. I can, if I learn from them, I don't have to have your experience to make it something that I have. Well, let me say it a different way. No,
I think you're on the right track. I think you're exactly right, because this is a part of society where we can't have a big swath here. We can't have empathy for someone else until it affects me. Well, that's not good. Like, we have to have empathy, even though it doesn't happen to me. We have to build. You said it right. You have to learn from others. I think you're spot on.
Yeah, you don't. So I don't have to have your experience for it to impact my own.
Right.
Or for it to improve my own. And I think so. When I went to Howard and I didn't understand it as a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old, and when I got there, I was like, oh wow, okay, I can be at a place where people who have a similar background to me are very different. Because look, just like every white person ain't alike, every black person ain't alike. You know, there's cultures within the culture within the culture. Right. But the things that I learned there about just the love and the appreciation of self. Right. Because when you live in a society that doesn't always appreciate everything about you, or who would just appreciate the convenient things about you. Yeah. I like what Jalen Rose said. He said, I wish America loved Black people as much as they do Black culture. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and that's not a shot at like white people or Hispanic people. It's just like, look, if we can just appreciate one another for who we are. Yeah. We're gonna wind up being better as a society. So anyway, blah 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 blah. Joe, get off your soapbox. No, it's good. It's good. So another thing that in that story I wanted to unpack is you transferred, and that's a pretty hot topic in today's collegiate and high school track and field world, the transfer portal. It's really interesting to me that, now that we have the transfer portal, which has been around now for 6 years, but for some reason we now feel like this is the first time kids have ever been able to transfer. It's like this really weird thing, but kids have been transferring from back in the day for many, many, many reasons. You had your reasons for why you transferred. Fast forwarding to today, and we're going to continue on your journey here in a second, but as a high school coach, are you seeing, let me ask you a different way. What are you seeing in regards to recruiting and how the transfer portal may or may not be affecting that recruiting out of high school? I think it's hurting high school athletes.
Really? Okay. How so?
Yeah. Because a college coach can go and get a proven commodity rather than one who has never done it before. And I know there are coaches who subscribe to that level of thinking, and I'm not saying it's wrong or bad. It's just different. Trust me. I know it was a very good friend of mine in college coaching who's very successful. I won't say his name, but that's what they do. They transfer portal all day long. So I think it hurts. So it hurts the high school athlete. When I say hurts, meaning there are less opportunities, so you have to work that much more. Okay, so let's go on to this. I'm glad you said that. See, this is where, as the host, I get to challenge and ask you to. Yeah, let's do it. I mean, again, we're just talking, man. So when you say there's less opportunities, and okay, full disclosure, I have not coached college track for 17 years. My last place was at Mississippi State, and that was a long time before the transfer. Hey, Bulldogs. Yeah, baby, you know it. Long time ago, things are definitely different. Heck, the SEC is different from when I was in it, right? But if the quote unquote big schools are going to go out and get all the transfers, so let's just for simplicity's sake say all the Power Fives, which is a total misnomer because there is a whole bunch of different divisions inside of Power Five, trust me. But all the Power Fives, they're not going to do any more high school recruiting. They're only going to go out and get transfers from the quote unquote mid majors or amongst themselves, by the way, which means there's no more scholarship money for great high school kids. Doesn't that mean, because if just recently I saw on Twitter this really good sprinter from Arkansas State, I believe, just transferred to Louisiana, to LSU. Okay, so there was a transfer portal thing, but now there's a scholarship open at Arkansas State, and obviously they did a good enough job that LSU came calling for that kid. So there must be, and I know those guys and gals really well. They are good coaches. There's a lot of great coaches in all divisions. That kid transferred. That means there's a scholarship at Arkansas State. That means whatever kid transferred from small university U to big university U, there's a scholarship open. There's still scholarships open. Yeah, I think in theory you're right, Mike. It's like you're shifting deck chairs, Yes. So, however, as a friend of mine says, however, comma. dot. There's a larger pool. It's an international pool now. See, back when I was at George Mason, when we won our national championship in George Mason, we were frowned upon. You had a lot of international students. We had a lot. Yes. I mean, I was the minority, and I don't mean because I'm Black. I mean because I'm American. Yep. On our team back at Mason, and shout out our head coach John Cook, who had the vision to be able to say, look, everybody in the world should deserve a chance at bettering their life and using a sport to do so. But he was an immigrant. Coach Cook was from Germany. He was a German. He's an immigrant. So he had the immigrant experience. So that's before the internet and all that kind of stuff. So it's harder and people didn't know. But we had people on our team from literally Somalia. Julius Acham was from Somalia. I'm not Julius. Julius was from Uganda. Abraham Aiden was from Somalia. I mean, you know, Greg Houghton and Ian Weekly and a ton of Jamaicans. So we had a ton of Jamaicans on our team. We had two guys from Hungary, which I loved, you know, Ispan Bagula. How you like that, isn't it? Ispan and Miklos Arpazi. You know, those are my guys. But and you know, Sam was from Canada. I mean, so we had guys from all over the world on our team, and we were like the United Nations. And I learned so much from those guys, and they learned from me, hopefully. And when you break down those stereotypes and you realize that, wait a minute, our differences do not necessarily have to divide us.
Right.
Now we can do more together. Right. And that's what we did. So, you know, but it was frowned upon because there were certain schools that were like, no, we're just American all the way. And they would frown. So we won our national title. They were like,
that's its own whole separate topic of quote unquote buying athletes, which always cracks me up because it's the same thing we're doing with American high schoolers. We're quote unquote buying we're buying athletes. It's a scholarship. I never understood just because they don't come from the US, it's buying a team or buying a title. It's like,
I don't understand it. And I still don't understand it. Now it's more readily accepted. So here's my point back to what you said.
Yeah.
So the international game, so to speak, or the international pool of athletes has widened it so much.
Sure.
So you'll have someone go from you know, Louisiana Tech or wherever you said to LSU, and that opens up something for Louisiana Tech. Well, guess what? They're looking at the portal too, and then they're looking internationally too. And if the high school kids are tertiary there, to where they're not the first or second, now they're the third look, it just makes it harder. It doesn't make it impossible. I'm not saying high school athletes are
good distinction.
Ruined. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it makes it harder. Now, I'm Joe Lee. I don't care about it being harder. The greatest harder. Now step your game up and like I had to do, figure it out. I let my athletes feel sorry for themselves, but I am saying the portal has changed the game where it's not as easy, I'll say, for a high school athlete who has a numbers where 6 or 7 years ago, they would jump at you. I mean, respectfully, I have a girl that ran 11.6 and she just signed Monday. And she's a brilliant young lady. She's an engineering major.
Wow.
Turned 11.65 when legal. She placed in the finals at nationals 2 years in a row. Okay. And she's got a 4.0 GPA. And she's now, why? Because 11.6 now.
Right.
Yeah.
I
can get 11.3.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not hating on the system. I'm the type of guy, Mike. I'm like, look, it is what it is. You just deal with it. But if it's injustice, then I step up. Sure. I don't think it's unjust. Yeah. I just think it's not. It's harder now for the high school athlete.
I think you're spot on. I think of it in a supply and demand type of situation. I think it is much, much harder for a kid maybe to get a scholarship or a big scholarship at the #1 school of their choice. And that usually is dictated by what's happening in college football, by the way. But that's where I think that is much, much harder. But I also believe it's your fault. And what I mean by that is high school coaching has also risen tremendously. And so you're right. 11.6 used to be number 20 in the US 20 years ago, and now 11.6 is like, oh yeah, you're top 100. That's still great, but high school coaching and high school athletes, and then of course the advent of social media and communication has made international recruiting much, much easier as well. So I think the supply has gone up. The demand, which makes the demand go higher, because also, one thing is never one thing, right? But you also have to look at these super conferences. When SEC was 12 teams versus now it's 16, well, that makes an 11.6 kid also less valuable, because at 12 teams, I might be able to take a chance on an 11.6 kid, and by sophomore, junior, senior year, they're running 11.3 and they're making finals. Nowadays, you're running 11.3 in the SEC. I hope you're on the 4x1 team, but you're not making finals.
No, you're not. No, you're not
making finals. So that makes that 11.6 unfortunately less valuable in that world, but it definitely certainly has a lot of value. So yeah, like I said, I always blame the high school coaches. Like, if you weren't producing so many great kids, a little bit easier, a little bit easier. Let's keep moving on, Joe. There's a lot of, I think we're gonna get into a lot of these great topics, which I love and appreciate.
Yeah.
So you graduate from George Mason. What did you end up graduating in, and what happened next?
So it's funny. I changed my major like 3 times in college. I didn't know what the heck I was going to do, especially when I realized that, wait a minute, I'm not going to.
See, here's another crazy topic. How crazy is it that we make 18-year-old kids choose what's going to be the rest of their life? That's just, to me, is still insane in this world. Yeah. 18, pick what you're going to do for the rest of your life, Joe.
Right.
Good luck.
Right. Exactly. and most of the time, it's not what you wind up doing. Or if you do it and you find out you hate it. I just philosophically, I think there's some things that should be done differently, the way that college works and things like that. I think there needs to be more like your leadership and strength based. Like, okay, there's something called the Clifton strengths, right? And it talks about, your just how you're wired and what your makeup is. Mine is my top 5 are arranger, developer, harmony, achiever, and belief, right? So those are my top 5. Clifton strength. Check it out if you have it. It's a game changer, and just help you understand who you are as a person, why this. And I know there's 1,000 different tests like this. I get it, Myers-Briggs or whatever, but that one it's been the best one I've seen, hands down. And why don't we have courses like that? And then before we're saying choose a major, let's find out who you are and how you're wired and what you do well or what you do great, and then even how we do grades. And we tend to focus on, all right, you got a D here. Well, how about this? How about if the things that we didn't do well at, we create a separate category for them, and then let's focus on the ones that they do, as opposed to saying, hey, your GPA, your overall GPA is, what does that matter? Right. Like, I wasn't a great student in school because I was bored. Yeah. And people didn't realize I was, leadership was in my DNA. Like, I have a mentor of mine who he has a great way to break it down. He's like, look, if you led in the neighborhood, you're more of an entrepreneur, right? If you're like the guy who came out and everybody in the neighborhood is following, you're more of an entrepreneurship kind of leader. If you led in school, in the classroom, you're more of a corporate kind of leader. Oh, his name is Bob Bill. It's great stuff. He's a brilliant man, but I'm a blend of both. So I led in the neighborhood and in school. So so guess what? Years later, now decades later, I'm an entrepreneur, but also, work professionally. And I blend both of those in my world because I understand me. I'm like, as an 18-year-old, I had no idea about this stuff. But how about if a 45-year-old helped me figure it out, as opposed to saying, you got to tell me what the Pythagorean theorem is or something like that I'm never going to use or even spell. Yeah,
I don't care if my doctor busted his butt to make an A in English. I care that he was really good in sciences.
Exactly.
And vice versa.
Exactly. Right. So anyway, but I mean, I'm not trying to like throw shade at college and say, oh, the college. Well, I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
No, it's education in general. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, we got to, I mean, you think about things like how we communicate, like just technology, like the phone, right? Like we've had so many advances in the phone in the past 20 years. And we're still doing, or how about transportation? How about technology? How about what we're doing right now? Right. The past 50 years and what we're doing right now, but like we're still doing school the same way. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, again, I will shout out. I'm talking about college. I'll shout out a place like Bullis. Like I'm sitting here in a media lab where they're teaching next level kind of stuff, and when people come here, like, whoa, there's so much more here than just the books and the X's and O's. Like, that's how more places should be. And I'm not trying to promote our own school or what. I'm just saying, like, that's why I believe in places like this, and even on the college level where my daughter goes to a school called SCAD, Savannah College for Art and Design. Oh yeah, and they just do it differently. Their approach to education is so far different, and I'm like, now that's how we advance, because when you do things different, then you figure out what works, what doesn't work, and then that's how we advance society, as opposed to let me do it this way because always was done this way and it never should be done any different. Yeah. That's just me.
Anyway. So what did you graduate with?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. There was a question so far somewhere, look, that's how my brain works, man. And
people are listening like, wait a minute.
Yeah. What are you talking about? So, or there's somebody in there who's like really analytical and very linear, who's like, okay, is he going to get back to the point?
No. We bounce.
Yeah. So I wound up being a psych major. So yeah, I want to be in a psychology major. And that's only because I got tired of changing my major, because
Sure.
I started in international business, and I was like, then I took
Wow.
statistics. I was like, this is weird. I don't like this. So no, I don't want to do that more. Then I did elementary education. Okay. And then I wanted to be pre-med, believe it or not. So I was pre-med major,
Wow,
but I didn't want to
man.
take sciences. So I was like, how can I go pre-med and not take a science? They're like, oh, just take a behavioral science. It's like, oh, really? There's that? I was like, yeah, psychology. Oh, I like figuring things out, So
Right.
then I was like, then when I realized I didn't want to go to med school for 8 years and
Right.
then all that kind of stuff, I said, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and stick with psychology, because, I'm tired of switching and I got to get out of here some kind of way.
Eventually, right. So what happened after graduation? You said you tried to run on the circuit, try to make it a go at that, which is like one of the most impossible things in the world. How'd that work out, and what was next?
Well, it didn't work out because I only did it 1 year.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun though. I mean, I tried, ran for a track club local in Jersey, and let's say made a little money. I mean, they paid for my hotel, and it's hard. I mean, so people don't realize that, first of all, professional track athletes, I believe they're severely underpaid.
Yes.
And again, I'm probably gonna get myself in trouble because I've got friends who work at those places, and I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of money globally in the sport. If you look at it in totality, so I'm not just that's not a shot at the shoe companies. There's more that can be done. And then I've had some conversations with some former professional athletes, like from way back in the day, and they're saying, "Oh, trust me, we were getting paid more then than they are now, like appearance fees and stuff." He's like, "These people are like, trust me." So I don't get into that because I'm still a high school coach. But it was tough, man, and so I had to get a job. So I wound up working at W.T. Woodson High School, which had an adult high school completion program. So I was helping people get their high school diplomas, and not their GEDs, but actual high school diplomas. And my godmother, her name is Jane Cruz, and she's another influencer in my life, as well as her husband Ron. I worked for her and just substitute teaching, and just kind of helping with safety and security, that kind of that. I needed a job.
Was coaching at all in your mind at this point, or were you still almost like in survival mode? Like I said, you needed a job.
So yeah, I needed a job. So what happened is, because I was at the high school, so I worked at the night school portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I worked from like 3 to midnight or something like that, 2 to 10. And then when I would come there, I'd see the track team practicing. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, I just ran to George Mason, which is right up the road. W.T. Woodson in Fairfax, Virginia. Mm-hmm. That's where Mason is as well. I was like, if you need help, let me know. It's like, oh yeah, we need help. So I came in and I coached. That's actually the second time I ever coached track and field. Is there when I jumped on and was their sprint coach. And we had 2 basketball players, a soccer player, and 1 girl who actually had some track experience. And I said, okay, we're just going to put a great 4x1 together. They're like, coach, we don't know how we don't even know how to pass a stick.
Right.
You're going to put a great one together? And like, haha, funny. So we worked at it, and they trusted me. And I remember that team like it was yesterday. And we wound up winning our section at districts in the 4x1 with some flawless, beautiful passes. And I was just the happiest coach in the world. I was as happy doing that, believe it or not, as winning some of the things that we've won at this level. Huh. That was the second time I coached. The first time I coached was in high school, actually, my summer track team. My coach could not be both places. And he was like, all right, you go. I'm older because I didn't run summer track, like I said, as a youth. I was senior in high school. It's like, Joe, go take the 13, 14 kids and just figure it out. I'm like, huh? What? Like, it was 4x1, right? So I took them. I said, okay, you do this, you do that, boom. And I think they came in second in the heat. They made the final. I was like, great. I was high-fiving. Now, mind you, I forgot I was there to run too. But I was so happy. Now I remember that feeling of accomplishment, like, yeah, not just for myself, but like I helped other people do something collaboratively together. And it was just the greatest feeling in the world. So that's where I got my start coaching. Just fast forward back to Woodson, and did that for a year. And then the very next year after that, my first head coaching position was at Fairfax High School. And it was, and then I took a 10-year break. Yeah.
Well, okay. So my first question from that was going to be, you after your first year at Woodson, you became a head coach. like how, meaning like you're not ready, you're not prepared, you're still thinking of coaching, but then you dropped that bombshell. Then you took a 10-year break.
Yeah, I did. I took a 10-year. I was asked to be the head coach at Fairfax High School because a friend of mine who knew the AD knew that they just lost their coach and they were in trouble. Like we need somebody. And Joe, we know you can do this. We know you can. I was like, no. And it's, if you ever have that friend who like, they just keep like at it, and you know they're a good person, and they're you know you really want to help, but you're like, nah. And finally I gave in and said okay, and had a blast. So that was my first team, and those guys, we still talk on social media every now and then. One of them unfortunately passed away. We were real sad about that, but we still keep in touch. And they like, when there was like a Bullis track and field post, every now and then they'll jump on like, yep, he's still the same guy. I'm like, quiet, but they're right. But we had fun. We enjoyed it. I mean, I was in my early 20s doing that, but we never won. We didn't win our conference. We came in second, both indoor and outdoor in our conference. We lost by a single point in our conference indoor, and then we lost by 3 points outdoor. Oh. But we were in the game. Mm-hmm. We were in the mix. And so those are some great times. But then because I'm all in the way that I am, I had to leave it because the career that I dove into and chose, and where I'm still in to this day was a ministry at my church. So I became a youth pastor. Right. So I said, I cannot be track and give to these kids at this church simultaneously. I got to choose one. So I chose my career path in youth ministry, which was like the same thing. I can teach life lessons, act like a complete idiot, and get paid for it. I was like, okay, sure. Water balloon fight, which let's do that, and then I just took some of those principles over from there, and I brought them into the ministry world. So I did that for 10 years, and I stayed away from track intentionally because I know, like, I cannot be divided. I know myself. So if I'm in, I'm in. If I'm out, I'm out. So I had to literally walk away from it and be all the way out, which in turn made me all the way in on that side. So our youth group grew from like 30 kids to like 300. And now I got like a staff and all this other kind of stuff. And then it went from there. Believe it or not, I had the largest youth ministry in the country at one point in time. We had over 3,000 kids coming to our service. It was like literally like concert.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like literally, it was very, it kept me busy.
Yeah.
We're talking about 3,000 kids, 3,000 teenage urban kids.
Right. Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun over the years, and I had a lot of relationships there. It's funny, every now and then I'll see people who know me from one world or the other. And, so that happened, but I came back after 10 years, and then I coached at Riverdale Baptist out here in Maryland for a couple of years. And then I stopped doing that, stepped away for a year because I just didn't, it just wasn't the best fit for me. And then my assistant at the time was a Bullis grad. He said, you should check out Bullis. And I'm like, what's Bullis? Like, what is that? A new sandwich at Panera? Like, what the heck? So he's like, no, it's my high school, because Bullis is a very prestigious, I'll say, school. And I don't like the word elite or elitist. I think those are can have negative connotations around it, but it's a very I put it this way, the school is very well sought after, both locally, nationally, and internationally. But they don't advertise and all that kind of stuff. There are other schools similar to that in our school consortium, like Sidwell Friends, where the Obamas went, and there's like Georgetown Day. There are a lot of like these schools, but I didn't hear about them because you just didn't. If you don't know, you don't know. Like, or if it's this phrase, like, if you know, you know. Right. So I didn't know. So when he sent me there, I came in. I looked at this 102-acre campus where they're doing different things, and there's an intentionality about diversity, and they're preparing these kids to be 21st century leaders. I said, yeah, I'm in. as long as you give people like me and who look like me an opportunity like this. And it's like, no, not only that's not just an agenda, it's a priority to make sure that diversity and inclusion is a part of our campus. And so that was 10 years ago. And, here I am.
So as for the last part of our talk today, I want to really focus in on Bullis. You had some experiences coaching and pretty varied experiences, from assistant coach to head coach and different things like that. But now at Bullis for 10 years, you've built, and I don't like using that term built because that means like it's done, it's over. You are building, you continue to build like a real program, like a very diverse program of athletes and high level athletes. Talk to me about, over 10 years, what did you, when you started at Bullis, what was the goals then, and how did you continue to not change, but evolve those goals as the program started hitting your former goals?
So when I first got here, because also I coached summer track too for a little bit. I coached at Glen Track Club, which has a huge reputation of doing great things at the youth level. And so shout out to all them, and who gave me the opportunity to do that. Coach Colbert, Coach Henry, and a lot of them just were really kind to give me an opportunity. So that's why I was fine. I didn't have to coach anymore. I was like, I'm good. So when the Bullis opportunity came up, I talked to the AD and I talked to the head of school at the time, and I said, okay, they were looking to rise the track to a level of respect and, dare I say, prominence like some of the other sports are. And I said, okay, I can do that if I just need to make sure you support the endeavor. Like, don't just talk about it, be about it, right? And they said they would, and they were true to their game. I told them, I said, if you do this the right way, bring the right people in here, because I just don't want fast people. I want people of good character and who are good students, but give them a chance. Then I'll win your first national championship in 5 years. We won our first in 4, but that wasn't the initial goal. Because when I got here, so at Bullis, you have to. We go in trimesters, right? So you got fall, winter, spring trimester. You have to do 2 activities within the 3 trimesters. Okay. So let's say if you play basketball, you got to do 1 more. If you play football, you got to do 1 more. If you do theater tech, you got to do 1 more, right? So spring track, which is when I got hired in the spring of 2013, was the default. That's the get over credit, and meaning kids would come and just sign up for track and just roll out and just go play basketball, right, or go hang out at the
it was the underwater basket weaving.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the 2 activities I have to do. Yeah.
So we were always last in our conference on both boys and girls, and our conference wasn't necessarily a powerhouse. I mean, we were like the prep school, division, kind of deal. So when I got here, I remember this. I remember telling everyone, okay, well, hey, listen, I know the expectations are low. It's kind of like with these movies you'd see, I don't know, what, Coach Carter or, Remember the Titans.
Yeah, I was thinking Remember the Titans, what I was thinking of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would be Coach Boone. I said, we're going to win. And they're like, Coach, we've never won anything.
Yeah.
Like, we're always last in the conference. I said, well, then I need you to prepare for a change. And they laughed at me. So within 12 months, we won our first conference title, and then they stopped laughing. And I remember calling the AD on the phone after we won. I said, hey, I just want you to know we won conference. He's like, you did? I'm like, yes, we won our conference. He's like, the whole thing? Like, he's like
what event?
Right, no, exactly.
The whole thing.
The whole thing, right? I remember telling him that. But it was some growing pains in between. One time, one of my funny stories, and she wound up being a great runner for me, was a young lady, her name was Brianna. And again, when I got there, I'm giving the whole speech about, we're going to do things different. We're going to make a championship program or a winning team. She's in line to do drills, eating gummy bears. It's like eating, like literally, like, I'm like, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. She's like, you know, I'm like, excuse me. I walked
Oh
over,
Lord.
I grabbed the gummy bears and I tossed them across the fence. And everybody's like,
Yeah, that'll set you up straight,
he's
right?
crazy. What's going on? She knew I was serious, and they knew, because I had to let them like, look, the old standard is no longer the standard. We can create a new one, but it's got to be a we. It can't be a me. Mm-hmm. And we can do whatever we want if we just fully commit. So we change the standard, and every year we continue to do that.
When you're working through changing the standard, there's two parallel ways two parallel things that have to change. And I'm probably missing there's probably 3 or 4 of them, but 2 that come to mind. One is the coaching education side. So how are you actually coaching the kids? What reps and speed based versus repeat based, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And there's also the organizational leadership side. What were you doing? What have you done? How have you evolved over these 10 years in those 2 fronts? And what I mean on the coaching side, I always break coaching education into 2 things: formal and informal. Both are equally important. Formal being USATF level 1s and 2s, USTF CCCA, Altus, those kind of things. And then informal being talking to my peer group, calling a Vince Anderson, hey, Vince, you're the king of acceleration. Teach me, those kind of things. What were you doing? How are you evolving over these 10 years?
It definitely was the latter. I laughed when you said USATC. I'm like, do I need to be a member of that or something? Because, of all the things that have happened, all the awards and stuff, I've never won Maryland Coach of the Year. I'm like, did I upset somebody?
Right.
It's funny to me, but maybe you got to be a member of that, but I'm not. And I don't do those things well. Like, hey, I don't want to be a part of this. Like, I just want to, I want to coach and I want to help people. And when I have people, I don't just mean people on my team, like anybody. People call me for help all the time. Coach, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? There was a young lady who I just met, and she was having trouble getting on her. She wanted to be a walk-on in college. I met her at the track last week when she was training with some friends of mine. And I made a phone call to her head coach, or to the head coach at that school, and said, hey, can you do this for this young lady? And she's not a Bullis kid, and but she was a great young lady who just wanted a chance, and they're giving her a chance. So I like doing that kind of stuff because it's the right thing to do. If I have something that can help you and I keep it to myself because you're not a part of my thing, then again, you're missing an opportunity to make the world a better place. Because if I can help you and you get there, and then maybe you can help somebody else or help 10 people or help 100 people. And you've now changed the world in your circle of influence. Yep. Who knows how that'll come back to mine, So anyway, I'm definitely on the side, Mike, of just that whole, getting with, mentors and teaching. I'm a question asker. So probably because I couldn't do it when I was watching my VHS tapes.
Right. Yeah.
Like now I can say, hey, listen, why did you do it that way? Or what were you thinking when it happened that way? So I haven't had, a lot of the coaching education from that side of it. Quite frankly, I struggle sitting in classrooms for hours and hours. This is dope for me because we can just chop it up. But if I had to watch a video, I don't know even how people are watching this right now, they might be bored to tears. So I'm sorry if you are. I can definitely tell some jokes that would probably liven up the place, but then again, you may get some dislikes on the little clicker button there. But no, man, I believe in that wholeheartedly. Not that the other side doesn't work, but I'm very practical because I need to know how does that work in real life? So we're looking at all right, the acceleration zones in relays, don't just tell me, oh, here's what the exchange zone is. Here's what the acceleration is. Oh, it's all 30 meters now, but here's where it is. And here's what you do. Great. That's information. I need application because if the application doesn't work, the information is essentially useless.
Right.
And I can't ask a question to a book or to a pre-recorded experience. So I'm all about that. I'll ask anybody, anywhere, anything.
Yeah. I like that. I'm kind of thinking of an example. I do believe, I believe in both. Like I said, equally.
Sure.
Important.
Yeah.
And I'm a product of the USATF coaching education level 1s and level 2s. And I think there is a real value in people learning the acceleration zone as it is in the rules and best practices. But when you said the application, and I remember that 1165 girl you told me about, I'm like, oh yeah, well, okay, that's fine if you know that it's a 30-meter zone and you want to hand out the stick in the middle, whatever, blah, 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 and right hand, left hand, all that kind of stuff. Okay, let's get real here though. In high school, how do I take my 12-2 kid who's going to hand off to my 11-6 kid who's going to hand off to my 12-flat kid? Like that's not just in the book of like, it's going to happen here. It's like, oh no, this kid's way better than this kid, but I've still got to make it happen in a relay setting. That's the chopping up, having a conversation with someone. Hey, how have you done this in the past? How would you suggest, here's my scenario. What would you do? And then you get to process it, go back, try it, fail, try it, pass, etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
It's problem solving, right?
Yeah.
And just like in school, like if I'm stuck, I could be a great math student, but there's one that's got me stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can't ask my professor or my teacher,
right,
then I'm going to stay stuck.
Right.
And I'm just saying we don't have to stay stuck nowadays, especially with social media and things like. Just reach out to people. I have coaches who reach out to me. I don't want to say all the time, but most coaches who reach out to me are not from they're from like other parts of the country or,
mm-hmm.
Even, sometimes internationally, I'm like, and people are like, I didn't think you'd answer. Like, why wouldn't I? Somebody answered for me.
Right.
So I've had coaches every now and then who've done this. It's like, I just need to set up some time and just pick your brain. I'm like, sure. Cause I picked it from somebody else and they helped me. So I just believe that, again, when we're more collaborative in nature, I think the sport is better.
Yeah.
I think, again, I'm big on, us being better as people in society and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that's the way that I've grown in the sport. And I think you asked another part of your question earlier. It was about my coaching.
So coaching education and then leadership operationally, how you actually run a successful program.
Yeah. Collaborative all day long. All day long. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. And if you're ever, is my opinion and philosophy, if you ever have to be the smartest guy in the room, then you need to get in a new room. Because I don't, your expertise doesn't have to be mine. It doesn't diminish who I am because you shine in who you are. Like, I'd love to, learn from you. I want to, after we're done with this, let's talk, let's chop it up, let's talk life. I want to know what you know. And here's the beauty about it. I'll never know it as well as you.
Right. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm better because I've known you. And if it's in a situation to where you're an expert on the subject matter, I want you in the room because I can't speak to it as well as Mike will.
All right.
Mike C has got it on lock, and I want him in the room so that I can just sit back and say, talk to this guy, talk to this young lady. We have 9 coaches on our staff at Bullis and 3 professionals. We have 9 coaches, 2 doctors, and one operations manager. So we have our staff of, what is that? See, I'm bad in math, 12. Right. And every one of them does something better than I do. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. And I defer often. And we collaborate often. When there are difficult decisions to make, do I have to be the final decision maker? Well, most times, yeah. Or sometimes I will defer. A lot of people don't even realize that. Like why did Coach Lee do that? Why did Coach Lee do that? Coach Lee didn't do it. Or, Coach Derek may have said it, or Coach Dave may have said it, or whatever the case may be, because I'm not intimidated by other people's success or other people's genius. I want you in the room. So I'm very collaborative in nature, and I will always be. And that's why I just believe that the difference in Bullis is that you may not see me. Some people don't even know that I'm the head coach. I'm fine with that. I don't need that to be known. I want our team to shine. Like, if we're really about team, if we're really about like what's best for the success of the greater whole, then it can't be about me or what I want or what I think only. I mean, my opinion has to hold some validity, of course, because I have this role. But if it's just my way, the highway, first of all, I wouldn't have 12 people on my staff if it were like that.
True.
And if I did have 12 people on my staff, they'd be a bunch of yes men and yes women, and we wouldn't be very good anyway, because they would withhold their expertise and their gifts.
Mm.
You don't want to do that when you work with people, because everybody has something in them to contribute of value. I just believe that.
So as we wrap up here, Joe,
we have to do this again, because I'm having so much fun.
I was thinking,
there's so much more to talk about.
I knew as I watched you for 20 minutes mess with your background. If you are listening right now, you have to at least go pop onto YouTube just to see his background, because let me tell you, it has moved 100 times before we actually record. But I'm curious, we had Carol Johnson from Johnson C. Smith, and now I'm second guessing myself. Maybe it was Carol Smith. I'm getting it all mixed up. She's the head coach at Johnson C. Smith University now. She was a high school coach before that and coached Anna Cockrell. And it's amazing. I talk to coaches. That's my whole jam, is to talk to coaches all day. And like I said, it's all your fault, all the high school coaches' fault. You guys and gals are coaching phenomenal athletes. And every once in a while, if we're lucky, we coach just someone who's on the next level, someone who actually will go to the Olympics, like Anna and things like that. And it's different. Well, I assume it's different. I never got to coach that kid, so but it's different. You're currently coaching a young man who's going into his sophomore year. So this is a precocious 15-year-old kid. His times are manly. He is a kid. I'm wondering, you've coached a lot of great kids. This one seems to be just a little bit more special. And I hate talking about him because he is a ninth grader, 10th grader. You know what I'm saying? Like there's plenty of kids that we talked about as sophomore or as a freshman and sophomores in high school that we never talk about in college and in the next level, because again, it's just so hard to do those next levels.
Yeah.
What's it like working with someone who is special? God has given them an ability that less than 1% in this world has. What are some of the things that you have to do differently than you did with the thousands of other kids that you've coached at this point?
That's a really good question. I don't think it's something I have to do differently. I just think it's something I just need to be consciously aware of. It just keeps me on my game. So the kid you're talking about, his name's Quincy Wilson. And he came in as a very touted young man in the sport. Broke Obie Moore's record in the 400.
That alone says a lot right there.
Right, exactly. So he wound up running like 47.5 as an 8th grader, right? Which is ridiculous. I know, right? So Sweater ran as a senior. So
that's true with being in your own event.
Exactly. Like, stop it. Like, it just makes me sick. I'm like, you just a little rascal. You're not even shaving yet. His voice ain't even changing. But I love him, man. I love him, and not because of what he does. I love him because of who he is.
Yeah, no doubt.
I love all our kids, and that's why we, people talk the family kind of stuff. No, like, we really legit do that stuff. There are times where we'll stop practice if there's this going on and we can't work it out. All right, stop. Let's go down to the athletic center in the classroom, and we're going to teach on this, or we're going to talk through this so that we can all make it better. Because training environments, in particular for adolescents, but I think it's all the way to the pro levels. I was talking to a pro athlete yesterday about training environment, and you're just saying just it's not right. I'm not feeling this, feeling that. So you want to make sure that your training environment is something that you're healthy or you're happy with, so that it will produce the anticipated or desired results. So with Quincy, the young man you're talking about, when he came here, I wasn't like, oh, we got to change all these things around because we got this 47 kid coming in. No, like, let's just make sure that I had to make sure that we are who we are, but also I'm who I am from the teaching perspective, and making sure that, just quite frankly, I'm on my game. Because you come in like, all right, well, I don't want to mess this up. But then when he gets here, you're like, well, he's just like anybody else. He just has more of this. But everybody has more of a this. I can pick another kid on the team who's more into science, or more into family, or more into whatever the case is. Everybody has a superpower, is what I tell them all.
Yeah.
And if your superpower doesn't line up with being the track U.S. #1 this world, that's okay. Let's not make, I think we do a disservice to kids and adults when we focus on their superpower as being the thing that most gives them their value. or excuse me, not just about the thing that we
becomes their
hold.
identity. Yeah,
exactly. Or we hold it in esteem. So like athletes, like, hey, if you're a great athlete, now you're a great person. Well, no, you're not. No, you could just jump high and run fast,
right?
And swing a bat. This doesn't mean you're a great person,
right?
The great person thing is really the thing that's most important. So with Quincy, he is a great person, and I don't say that just because I'm his coach. I say that because it's the truth. His parents have instilled in him a humility, but also a drive, a respect, but also a hunger that, quite frankly, it's very rare to see. Like, I think that's a superpower. People say how fast he is. No, like what's on the inside of him in terms of that humble but hungry mindset, or that mantra that we have at Bullis overall that he didn't even realize we had. When I see that out of him, it inspires me. And I'm like, you're not going to outwork me, young fella, because I'm going to work hard, not on the track. I ain't But I do tell the kids, I got one more race left in me. And I feel sorry for whoever gets it.
Famous last words.
I got one more in me, Mike. I got one more in me. And whoever gets it is going to get everything I got.
When you see Joe Lee limping around at the track meet, you know he gave that one race because the hamstring blew out. I guarantee it.
you were being very kind, because I was going to say, and then I will die.
Yeah, exactly. Just drop. I'm done.
I just did. That's it. I'm done.
I'm curious with the, it's one thing as a kid develops, if a kid comes into your program as a 52-second quarter miler and leaves as a develops through and leaves as a senior in high school as a 47, 46, or even a 45. That's amazing. The recruiting doesn't happen in freshman year then because they're running 52, those kind of things. Have you seen, like, it's kind of I'm gonna say it's a joke, actually. It's kind of a joke on the college level when a coach goes from D2 mid-major and gets their Power 5 job or Division I job, all of a sudden they know everything. And I'm not talking about the coach says he knows everything. Like, oh, they're getting invited to speak at clinics and coaches are asking their opinions. It's like, when I was at small school U last year, same person, like same knowledge. But now that I'm at big school U, I know everything.
Right.
I wonder if you've seen, now you've got a great personality that I can see where college coaches, whether you have a kid to be recruited or not, would kind of like to, talk and just hang out because, again, your personality. But I'm wondering have you seen, are you more popular now today because of Quincy? Like, our coaches like, hey, coach, man, how you doing? Man, you're doing such a great job over there. Oh yeah, Quincy. Oh yeah, I forgot all about him. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you more popular now? Fake popular because of this?
I don't know. Our program had a lot of success before he came here, and I think that's one of the things that intrigued them. And I think so. So let me say this: Quincy came from. He originally was from up here, from the DMV. Then he moved down, or his family moved down to Virginia Beach. So he lived most of his adolescent years or his youth years in Virginia Beach. They made a decision to move back up here to come to Bullis. And that's probably one of the most humbling things that I could ever have said about me or about us. And we did not recruit Quincy. And I'm giving you straight facts. I don't care who says what. They're wrong. Here's how it happened. We were at a meet in Virginia Beach, and his mother and his father, who are some of the most high honor, integrity people you can meet. Dad is retired Navy, and all that. I'm talking about like all up there ranks high Navy. Did some stuff that he can't tell us to talk about. David, not bad stuff. He just had a lot of responsibility. So military doesn't give you responsibility unless you have high integrity and character. So. So we were at a meet. It's down in Virginia Beach. I'm sitting down and watching the race, and this lady says to me, "Excuse me, are you the coach of Bullis?" I'm like, "Depends on who's asking."
That's my line. It's like,
exactly,
it depends.
Right,
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Right, exactly. So, do I owe you money? So so I said, "Yeah, of course." And she says, "Okay, and she starts asking me questions. I'm just answering questions, and she says, "Well, I'm looking at that at Bullis as a possibility for my son." I'm like, "Who's your son?" She's like, she points over to him, and he's like a couple rows down. It's like, "Quincy." I was like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, stop playing. Yeah, right. You know, ha ha, got me. I'm like, who's making you play this joke on me? Because I play jokes on people all the time, especially with my kids on the track team. Play them, and we love joking. And like, who you almost got me, you know? Like, no, we're serious. We'd like to talk to you more about it. So I'm like, okay. But it wasn't like, okay, we got to change everything now. Quincy Wilson's partner. It was like, okay, let's have a conversation. Because remember when I said before, like, you know, setting the standard, like the standard had already been set by kids like, you know, Eric Ashton Allen and Austin Allen, Ryan Willie, who he's a pro. He just signed a pro contract from Florida. He's a Bullis kid. Masai Russell just signed a contract or is about to sign her contract. She's pro. She's an NCAA record holder at Kentucky. Leah Phillips is at LSU. So like we've had kids over the years who kind of established the culture on our team. And the culture on a team is this: like we're going to give our everything, and we're going to make sure that we don't cheat ourselves or the sport or our teammates in the process. We don't do anything halfway here. We just won't do it. And there are others too. I didn't mean to name them. I mean, Lauren Harris, Sierra Leonard, Shania Hall, and you name it. Andre Turret. So it was already here. But what I was humbled by, Mike, is the fact that they watched us from afar, and they liked what they saw because they understood what they had on their hands. He broke Obi Moore's record. Right. You don't send them just anywhere. Right. And they chose us. We didn't choose him. They chose us. And so now when I'm coaching him, the pressure's off, right? Because I didn't have to like sit in your living room and promise you this and promise you that. And I don't promise him anything. I promise him I'm going to be honest. I'm always going to be honest with you. And it's not going to be easy. But if you can handle those two things, you will have success. Whether success is making the U20 team, which he did make, but he was just too young to run, which I think is hilarious. That's funny. Yeah. I think it's hilarious. Or if success is like Ryan Bigelow, who just graduated, and she's going pre-med at Johns Hopkins. Wow. That's success. Wow. Yeah. And you would not know Brian Bigelow's name if you know, she wasn't one of our fastest. She wasn't on our 4x4 A or B team, but she's the sweetest kid in the world. And she wanted the enjoyment of being a part of something special, and because she likes track, and using it as an opportunity to teach her and to take her to the place where she has a superpower, and that is in the sciences, which I love just as much as the track. I love it. Jolie, we're up against time. Yes. Dear listener, we're up against time. I have an idea that I'm going to kick with Jolie later. I got an idea for you, my friend. But we're going to wrap it up today. Thank you so much, man. You know, we've been back and forth trying to get this schedule, your busy schedule, my busy schedule. I'm so pumped for a million reasons that we actually got this done. I got to, again, shout out Coach Q for connecting us, man. You were right. Q said that you were a good dude. And, you know, if he says it, I'm going to believe it. And he was downplaying it. You're a great dude, man. I'm so proud of what you've done up to this point in your career. I mean, like, you know, for someone, a man of faith in myself, I love when someone pivots and says, yeah, I became a youth pastor. It's like, oh man, as much as I love track, that is a bigger calling. So I love that for you and your journey. And I love what you're doing at Bullis. And I think what's going to be really fun, you know, to use a 400-meter analogy here, Joe. And I know at your age and stage, you may think like, oh, you know, I'm winding down, only got maybe 10 or 15. My friend, you are barely at the 200-meter mark of a quarter mile. I know it seems like, no, man, I've been coaching for a long time. You're right. You have. You still have a long part of your race to go, many, many years, decades to coach and influence young people that you've done so far. And I'm here for it, man. I can't wait. You know, it's 2023. I can't wait to re-listen to this in 2033 and do an update, a 10-year update of what you're doing, because it's going to be fantastic. And I'm so excited for it. I'm so excited for you and the kids that you get to positively impact. Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it, man. And thanks for what you're doing in our sport. I've listened to the podcast. I love it. I love what you're doing. I love the fact that, you know, we can just go somewhere and just have conversation, and, you know, we can learn, we can, you know, grow, but we can also have some fun. And it's what the sport needs, man. So I'm real appreciative of what you're doing, and you keep doing it. 275 episodes later. Soon. I love it. You know,
dear listener, earlier he said about connecting with other coaches, and sometimes people don't reach out to him, and sometimes other coaches have a hard time reaching out to others. That is one of the mini goals, if you will, that we had with this podcast. It's very specific why we named this the Connections Podcast. I hope today you got to know Joe Lee better. I hope you feel emboldened, empowered to reach out to him. Vice versa, he certainly is emboldened to reach out to you if he would like to talk to you, and I know he does. I just love that. It's one of the real special parts about our sport over other sports, I believe, is that we are a much more connected community than any other sport coach out there. And I just want to encourage you, if you think that someone is too big for you to call or email and ask a question about, you're wrong, because you're just as big to reach out to that person. And the greatest people in this industry, and we've had them here on the podcast, they'll answer. They don't care who you are. You're a human. That's what they care about. And so they'll give you that respect. Join us next week. We're going to do it all over again here on the Gill Track and Field Connections podcast. Thanks, everybody. And of course, my mouse doesn't want to work, so I can't hit stop.